Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. I don't know why I'm getting the wheel of death on this, but it's adding to the aesthetic. I'm going to be covering this podcast called The Queer Collective. They did an episode on fat people, the real reason you hate fat people. I want to cover this whole thing. I saw it on TikTok. I saw a clip of it and I was like, I want to cover this entire episode. But it's obviously kind of long, so I'm going to definitely do this in parts and I'll probably revisit it when I'm ready because I'm going to see how it goes. Let's see. You guys can let me know what you guys think. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what's going to happen. But we're going to take it, we're going to react to it, and we're going to speak about it, okay? I'm going to do my best to stay demure and mindful. Yes, I saw that term, and I'm going to try to use it. So I'm going to do my best. My best. Okay, let's go.
Talking about fatness. Let's talk about clothes. Don't have many of those. Until you learn about body liberation and body positivity, no one would choose to continue to be fat in a world where they absolutely hate fat people. What if it was okay to have our gut come out a little bit?
No, I love that.
What if being fat is so dangerous, not because of the health repercussions of being fat, but because of the trauma that you're going to go through no matter what, especially in the medical fields. My experience is not unique at all.
This is going to be rough. This is going to be rough. Okay.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. I'm your host, Carbon.
And I'm Emily.
And I'm Jenna.
And welcome to the show.
Today we clearly
And I'm Alex.
have a very special guest with us today.
Clearly.
Obviously. We have Jenna Marie, who is a super talented vocalist, but she is also a TikTok content creator who explores topics of body liberation, mental health. So we're so thrilled to have you here with us today to help us explore the topics of body liberation specifically.
We're talking about fatness.
We're going to jump into why people might be fat, diet culture, and fat phobia, and there's so much in between there. We're going to get into a lot of really great conversation today, so stick with us and let's get into it. Kind of the space that we want to start with is, what does it mean to be a body liberationist?
Okay, so I actually found a really good definition of body liberation from the University of Vermont's website that I think, just to start things off right and strong, I'd like to read it to you both.
Please do.
Shout out to Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Vermont.
Body liberation is freedom from social and political systems of oppression that designate certain bodies are more worthy, healthy, and desirable than others. Body liberationists reject the notion that bodies that are white, able-bodied, cisgender, thin, or fit are superior, worthier, or inherently healthier than any other body.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
So they're already from the jump really trying hard to make this about race. We'll say that first. So apparently that's the angle they're going to go with. The other aspect is they're trying to lump it in with disability as well. So we've seen this a lot in fat acceptance. Fatness is not similar to disability or race. They're very different. And I don't know why there is an institutional push. You know, this person's talking about a university, which, you know, doesn't necessarily instill confidence that this is their definition of this and this is where they're going with this and this is what they're pushing. But, okay, here we are, right? I would say that already out the gate, they're not the same. They're not combined. It's a different category. It's a different thing entirely.
And I think what's extremely important about body liberation is that it explores more than just the aesthetic movement.
And you know that they're just about fatness, and you know that it is different because they only ever defend fatness. Anybody who says I'm a body liberationist, they're never saying, as a body liberationist, I'm sticking up for such, such, and such. They're only sticking for fat people. It's very clearly a fat movement. It has to do with fat acceptance. That's what it has to do with.
Like body positivity.
The only time the only time they will stick up for race or disability is if it involves fatness. So if somebody is disabled because their health is so poor and their mobility is so poor because of supermorbid obesity, or if a fat person happens to be Black, then they will say, well, that's a Black person's natural body type, which is actually, in my opinion, kind of racist. That's just my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think about that, but I'm not a fan of that logic whatsoever. I don't think it makes any sense. The innumerable amount of Black people I've seen that are not fat would shatter that completely. The fact that any race can be fat, the fact that any race can be not fat, completely takes race out of the equation. But sure, Jan, sure.
Of loving your body no matter what, no matter how thin or fat or how big or etc. It's about human rights. It's about anti-race.
It's about fat. Stop trying to pad it with all this other stuff. It is about you want to be fat with nobody saying anything about it. That's what it is. Okay? Sorry, I'm struggling to be demure. I told you this is going to be tough for me. I'm resisting the witch hat. I'm trying to be demure. The witch hat is not demure. The witch hat is not mindful. I'm going to try to bring it back down a notch. But this is already killing me, and it just started.
This work. It's about anti-ableism. It's about like learning about all of these systems that oppress so many people, including people in larger bodies.
I love that. And honestly,
not including, mainly. That's the primary, that's the only focus. Let's be 100%. That is the only focus.
I had
only focus.
No idea that it was so all-encompassing.
It isn't. So I understand why you didn't have that idea, because it isn't all-encompassing. It is completely just about fat people. She's blatantly lying to you.
I love that, and I love how inclusive it is.
It's not. It's just about fatness.
Which you mentioned body positivity versus body liberation. Can you help us identify the differences between the two?
Yeah. So body positivity first started as a movement that was run by Black women in the 1960s, queer women, by the way, who
shout out
were doing this same work that we call body liberation now.
Okay.
And
I've seen a lot of things that show a different narrative. You know, I should definitely do a video looking into the history of it, but I've definitely seen a different perspective where it has to do with guys that are into fat women. So I'd have to look into the research myself and do it myself, but I'm just saying I've seen different perspectives on where this came from. That's all I'm going to say. I'm a little skeptical, okay?
We're protesting for rights for people who are in bigger bodies, fat bodies. And fat, by the way, is a beautiful neutral term that we can all use in this podcast.
What rights? There's no rights that have been denied on the basis of fatness. I've never seen it. Ever. I don't think it's ever even happened throughout history. What rights? What?
Podcast today, please do. It's a beautiful neutral term. But what happened is that over the years, especially through social media, it has been co-opted by a lot of white women and social media influencers who at first, like, this is how I learned about just self-love and body love is through body.
So it's not that body positivity was co-opted by fat people. They're saying it's the other way around, which you've heard this argument a lot. I don't argue about body positivity. As you guys know, I'm a body neutral girly pop. I find body neutrality to be more demure, less mindful. I don't know, more or less mindful. You don't want to be too mindful about your body, in my opinion. So I find body neutrality to be more demure. Okay. That's my opinion. You can have a different opinion. That's fine. But there really is this weird infighting within body positivity and fat people. It's really bizarre to me.
The body positivity movement, but a lot of the body positivity movement nowadays is really centered around aesthetics, and now has become an all bodies movement. You know, where people who are in smaller bodies, who are in thin bodies, they
But
also,
see, they're so inclusive. So inclusive, you guys.
you know, want to celebrate their bodies, of course, because we all should. But people who are in super fat bodies, people who are in marginalized bodies, actually experience oppression on the day to day. And so when a movement
Okay,
like
give an example. I want examples. I want a concrete statement. If you're saying on the day to day, what happened to you today? Tell me now. That's what I would say if I was there. I'd say, what happened today? Tell me what happened. Give me an example. If you have all these days and day to day, everything's happening all the time, then you should be able to list me 4, 5, 10 things, 15 things. If I asked you to give me 15 things that happened in the past 2 weeks, you should be able to do that then. It's lies.
the body positivity movement is co-opted by people who are in
I'm telling you guys, I might have to get the witch hat. I don't know if I can hold my demure together. If I get reactive 2 more times, then I'm getting the witch hat. So I'm going to try.
smaller bodies. What happens is that the people who are in bigger bodies who really need the liberation get overshadowed.
Like, yeah.
It's kind of giving like all lives matter vibes.
It really is.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it really is race to them. Isn't that interesting? Let's keep it demure. Weight is race, isn't it? To them. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Little disclaimer moment. I am not an expert in body liberation. I'm just very passionate about body liberation, and it has changed my life, my relationship to my body, my relationship to the entire world. I've learned so much about everything that happens, especially as a white woman with so much privilege. I was not aware of so many of the systems that oppress so many different people, especially people in marginalized bodies and large.
It is very wild to try to use race to justify your weight. It's very wild. And that was not an outburst. That was demure. Hold on. It's wild to use race to justify your weight.
Larger bodies. You know, I don't have a degree in this, but I have learned so much. And actually, one of my really good friends, Bishop, has a PhD in gender studies and education. And I was
Cool.
talking to them, being like, I don't feel like I belong in these spaces, or I should talk about this. You know, I don't have the
Specifically
academic
about this?
background. Yeah.
The academia paper.
Yeah, I don't have that. And they were like, you don't need to have that. You know, you can be a community educator and you can learn through community. And I have learned everything through reading books that specifically Black women have written and learned through, you know, TikTok influencers and social media. And
Yeah.
so
And
I just
what, and what if a Black woman disagrees? Then what? So if you're trying to judge everything based on race, what if you're watching Michelle McDaniel? Who are you supposed to listen to then?
want to put that disclaimer out that
Well, I feel like
I'm no
everybody who
expert.
comes on this podcast that says they're not an expert knows a lot of stuff.
They usually drop a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there is so much knowledge to be had in community, and oftentimes so much respect to the academic world, but I do feel
For
like there
sure.
is a level of disconnect in terms of like what's actually happening for people experiencing something.
Ground level.
Yeah, and I think both should and can coexist and are both valuable and important. So we're happy to have you on and sharing your experiences.
Thank you so much.
So this next question we wanted to ask is really tied into your own experiences. We're wondering if you could share your own journey of body insecurity to body liberation.
Well, I have always been in a large body since I was a youngling. I come from a family of very large people. I'm 5'10". I've always been bigger. I've always been chubby. I've always been, you know, what the world has considered to be fat, which Looking back at photos now, I'm like, you poor thing, you were just so average, you're just so regular. I also grew up with an almond mom. Do you know what that
What is an
I have one too.
What does that mean?
Well, you've been out with my mom. It's like she's ordering like a side plate, and we're like, the fuck?
Oh, as her main plate? Yeah.
And then she gives us half of it. I'm like,
Was it, wait
like,
a minute.
what?
You gave us half of your little plate.
It's like there's only ingredients in the house.
ingredient household.
Yeah,
I come from an
ingredient
ingredient
house.
household as well, which
Yeah.
is, for those who don't know, it's like a household where you don't have any processed foods. You don't have like prepackaged snacks. You know, like you don't really have canned meals or things like that. It's like everything is an ingredient so that it can be like clean food, right?
Yeah.
It's prepared, it's cooked
I guess that's a problem, apparently.
from the beginning. And an almond mom is kind of like a funny way to describe a mom that like. With love, because I know she's gonna be listening and watching. Like, love you, Linda. You did your best,
Linda.
Love you, Linda, so
We
much.
love our moms.
We love them, but they're also just under all of these, systems
Yeah.
and
But
pressure.
we know so much better than them. That's what that is. We love them, but we're so much better than them, and we're so much smarter than them. Okay. All right. All right. I'm staying demure. This is good practice for me. This is really good. This is probably like some kind of immersive therapy for me. I know I'm doing great. You guys can tell me I'm the demure queen, girly pop. I'm demure. I'm so demure in this. Absolutely.
Pressures, but my mom was a fitness instructor, so it was a little bit intense. There was a lot of dieting in my household my whole life. We know now through new
Okay,
studies that
so then you wanted to rebel, basically, when you were older and you just ate a bunch, basically. That's my opinion.
are coming out that being on diets when you're young is extremely harmful for you,
Yeah.
your psyche, obviously, but also for weight gain, like, which is hilarious.
Also, just your physical.
Like it
Yeah.
impacts your metabolism, right?
Yeah.
Really?
and I remember
your ability to study in
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
it became an obsession very early on because
Okay. Toxic ritualistic mindset. So this can happen. A lot of people don't, well, I don't know if people don't like it when I say it, but it is genetic. So it can be passed down both genetically and through, socialization. It's usually triggered by some kind of trauma. So let's see what else she says.
it would be like approached from my family as like, we're worried about you. Like, but I was an active kid too. Like, I played soccer, hockey for years, ring.
And they usually don't talk about it. They usually don't talk about what it is. I do wonder if she happens to have PCOS. I feel like the podcast probably would have somebody that has PCOS to kind of, push the narrative and, kind of do all that kind of stuff. Which PCOS is a hormonal disorder. It does require some kind of treatment. You need to do something about it. I always advocate for that. Always. But let's see what else she says. I'm getting back to my mindful, demure era, okay? I'm calming down a bit. So we're getting into some actual stuff now.
Yeah, I was a figure skater. I did all of
Damn.
these things, but I was a
Yeah.
chubby little one.
Yeah.
And it was always like, it must be the nutrition. Like, we have to make sure, we have to keep this under control. And the more that I was put under these, like, controlling food insecurity, all
Right.
this stuff, like, the bigger I would get. Because yo-yo dieting and crash dieting is really
Toxic ritualistic behaviors. That's what we're going to call it. That's what we're going to call it. And I feel like you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the kind where you eat too much.
really not good for young people, for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. From what age did that start? Like the yo-yo dieting, crash dieting?
Well, when I was, I think, like maybe 15 or 16, I remember my family doctor was like concerned about my weight and suggested that I go on Weight
Okay.
Watchers.
So that means that something had been going on before then. Because there was either a physical issue or something else that was occurring before. Because doctors don't just say things just to say it. In my opinion, they don't. In my opinion, there was something going on. She probably was not super fat. She probably was not obese. She probably was not like in any of those categories at the time. But in medicine, we've talked a lot on this channel, or at least I try to. In medical practice, they try their best to prevent, because the medical understanding of obesity is that if you are a child, if you become obese, you will never be able to lose the weight. So they try very hard to prevent it in childhood. That is the medical approach, and it certainly was, at least back in the day. Like, I remember that approach. I remember that mindset. I don't know how old she is, but I remember that being a thing even when I was a kid. So I think that's why there was such a seriousness about it when she was a kid from a medical perspective. In my opinion today, it is certainly much better to prevent obesity, morbid obesity, super morbid obesity. It's always better to prevent it, especially super morbid, because super morbid is very difficult to get out. It's difficult. It's like a pit. You can, but it's very hard. So if you're not there, please put in the effort to turn it around before you get there. You can still get out. I always say you still can. I got out. I did. But it took a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work to get out. So you want to prevent. Okay? And it's the same thing with all levels. You want to prevent it. It's better to never gain the weight than to gain it and then lose it. It's better. It's just better. It is. And again, just to clarify, in case anybody wants to misconstrue what I'm saying, it's not good to be underweight either. And as a child, you do definitely want to make sure you're getting enough calories so you can grow properly.
Oh.
Which at the time, you couldn't go on Weight Watchers if you were under 18 without permission from a doctor and a parent. So I was a child. I went to Weight Watchers like 5 years of my life. Every week, I would be in a room full of adult women, calorie counting in their system, which is like points counting for them.
Yeah.
And like being celebrated every time I would lose a pound. Like, you get weighed at the front, you go in.
Whoa, in front of everyone?
In front of
So
everyone.
you don't get weighed.
So I feel like most people that have the certain kind of toxic ritualistic behavior in America in the 2000s, etc., it's a long list of things. It's very likely you've stepped into a Weight Watchers meeting. It's also true just basically for people who are fat, especially who are, young women, basically. You probably made your way into one. I definitely did. And I have that toxic ritualistic past. So I definitely stepped into a Weight Watchers meeting as a teenager. I wasn't like horrifically traumatized by it. I already had the issue before I went to Weight Watchers, and I had it after. So realistically, it was just one of those cycles. That's all it was. It was just a cycle. It was just one of them, one of many. But yes, I did make that stop on my tour. I did.
Wait in front of everyone. How it works is you go in and like at the cash tellers there are scales, and you stand on the scales
At the front door?
Yeah, and the lady with like her booklet has your like weight and has last week's weight and
my
weighs you and
gosh.
tells you how
It's
much.
to help provide accountability. That's the mindset behind it. That's why, which I get it. I'm not a huge fan of it either, to be honest, but it is what it is, right? That what it is when you're signing up for it. So whatever, it is what it is.
That
She
seems
lost her
super
things.
intense for a kid.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Well, for anyone, but like especially for a kid.
Even arguably as an adult, it's a bit of a weird situation, like
Yeah.
to your psyche too. Like
Yeah.
you're going, and if you lose weight, you get a sticker,
It's an interesting structure for sure.
and then you go to the group like lesson after that. So everyone gets weighed, and then you go to the group lesson.
It's literally like church. It's kind of like when I was going to it, I used to call it the religion of food. That's what it felt like when I was there. And it was kind of like, it's very corny in my opinion. And I get it, maybe it's not demure to say that Weight Watchers is corny, but I do find it corny. I do. And I did at the time as a teenager. And I think I tried it again in college, and I still always found it kind of cringe, kind of corny.
And everyone talks about their week, and they give you pointers and hints of what they consider to be healthier eating habits or lifestyle changes. But really, it's like, how can we shave off points out of this meal? How can we shave off points out of that meal? And I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
So that had a big impact on me. Fast forward, I ended up developing an eating disorder, specifically binge eating disorder, which I wanted to say
Sounds like you may have had it a little earlier, but we'll see. I'm going to let her speak.
specifically because it's something that's not spoken about a lot. And it's a big reason for people being fat. There's not a lot of study about this, so it's really important that we name it, I think. And
True.
through a decade of obsession, trying to be smaller all the time, just always every diet possible, every week, I'm gonna start over, just takes over your whole life, just trying to try to fight back being fat. I started seeing the body positivity movement on Instagram specifically. Maybe a decade ago. I'm starting to see these radical posts of
I am so glad I never saw that, because that's really scary to me. I don't know if I would have been, I wonder if at 20 years old, if I would have fallen into that. And that's really scary, because as I told you guys, I was already struggling, and by 28, I was near death. So it's imagine an alternate universe where I had TikTok at 20 and I fell for it. And I just went totally ham. I mean, that would have been horrible. Gosh, I'm glad it wasn't there when I was that age.
people showing their stomachs. That was crazy. When people started taking photos of their stomachs, a roll, one singular roll, I'd be I would scream oh my God, how could they do that? Oh my God, aren't they embarrassed? But meanwhile, they're representing my body and it's iconic. But I remember even me, I was how could they show themselves like this? Oh my God.
And
it's
that's the fat phobia inside of yourself too, which is something I really struggled with a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry for everything you had to go through.
Thanks.
It's horrible.
Well, it's gotten better through the bravery of body liberationists and people in the body positivity movement, but it's still horrible.
I don't know if it has gotten better. It's gotten better, but it's still horrible. I don't think it's working. I don't think it works. I just don't. I'm not convinced. I'm really into body realism, body neutrality, just taking it for what it is, It helps. I told you guys, I've been struggling a bit this week, and it helps me to just be look, this is what it is. Period. End of sentence. Don't have any feeling about it. Don't have any emotion about it. Stop thinking about it. Go on about your day. Don't stare into the mirror. It's just live your life. That helps. It helps. It helps to be aware that I'm being extremely neurotic in those moments and that it's not good. And so I don't take it seriously. When it comes up in my mind, I'm just oh gosh, it's just I don't know. It's the clown logic is trying to come back. Pennywise, I don't know why I've been thinking a lot about it, that movie. There's these gutters that I've been looking at in town. And I kind of live in a very low key kind of town, kind of like Derry, Maine, I'm in Derry, Alabama, basically. And I look at the gutters and I don't know. So it's been on my mind, I think, because Halloween's coming. But that's how I feel. I'm when I look at it, it's I almost think of it as oh gosh, there's the red balloon. This is the clown logic. It's coming in. It's not real, and I have to tell myself that. It isn't body realism. It's not real. It's stupid. It's a joke. I make a joke of it because it is a joke. It's Pennywise, that's all it is. And so that's kind of helped me. I don't take it seriously. I see it as wrong. I criticize it. in my mind. And I'm just like, no, like you're being, Taylor Swift an anti-hero right now. You don't want to be like that. That was a cringe era. Sorry for any Midnight stands. It wasn't one of my favorites. But anyways, like that's what I think in my head, it's like you disempower it, just like Pennywise. How do you deal with it? You bully it. That's my advice, because it doesn't have any power over you if you don't take it seriously. Just like Pennywise. Okay, let's continue.
But back in the day, it was really bad, like just a decade ago. Like these messages, these fat-phobic messages, are everywhere. We know this, right? Like we know it's in the media.
I think you're looking for it. I think sometimes you even fish for it because you're still in the toxic ritualistic mindset. So you're always looking for something. That's why. That's my opinion. You're always looking. You're always trying to find it. You're always this, you're always that. That's why. So that's why you see it everywhere all the time. I don't see it everywhere all the time because I don't think about it all the time. I don't.
It's in movies. We know
Children's TV shows.
that's really bad.
Yeah.
Just nonstop, like wherever you look. And it's in us all. Like fat phobia is deeply ingrained in us all, just like
It's in us all. That sounded very, very CULT a little bit.
how it's so important in body liberation that we also do anti-racist work, because that's also within us all. It's like an internalized.
It's not the same thing. Please. Please stop. Just stop. It's not the same thing whatsoever. Okay?
Misogyny, all of these things live here. Like we just need to control each other's bodies, especially women's bodies. And these messages come at us like nonstop. And people think truly, and I know this because I post videos of myself talking about this on the internet and get hundreds of thousands of comments of people who think
You're famous.
well, they think it's appropriate to tell me constantly that like I am glorifying obesity.
Yeah.
I am like
I think you're just lying. I think you're lying to yourself, which is sad. It's very, very sad to me. That's how I see it. I see it as that toxic mindset is still there and you're lying to yourself. And I understand it because I've done that. I've done it many times in this issue. I have. Trust me. I always say I lived and died by it. Like I would have died. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I understand it so well, so horrifically well. But that's what I see. I see you're in the kind of dissociative state. You're in a delusional state. And it's sad to see people supporting that and encouraging it. That's what I see. I see these two here supporting your delusions. And it's very sad to me because I do think you have mental health issues. That's what I see. And it's not really a judgment of her because we don't choose to have that. We don't choose to have mental health issues. I don't know what happened, but something happened. And she doesn't have to talk about it. Not everybody wants to, and that's fine. But the thing is, something happened. And it triggered something. And it's very obviously there. And it's very sad to me. And that's what I see. So I don't see like you glorifying obesity. I see that you're in a delusion. And it's sad. It's very sad because it's dangerous. That's what I see.
killing our nations by spreading this information of like what love like acceptance. I don't understand that.
I think it's a common misconception for people to have that if you like love yourself and you have a bigger body, then you're promoting potentially
If you love yourself, then you're going to take care of yourself. Part of taking care of yourself is being at a healthy weight. It's being at a healthy body fat percentage primarily, specifically. It's being within a level where you're going to have the lowest risk possible, where you're going to have the most balanced hormones you can possibly have, the highest quality of life you can, etc., etc., etc. You don't sabotage yourself. You don't have the self-loathing aspects of that toxic mindset, that's love. Love is not always a feeling. Love is an action. Love is taking care of yourself, even if you don't want to. You know, I remember I had so many conversations with one of my best friends, with Eric, and I used to be so frustrated with the fact that, you know, gosh, like I have to really take care of my body. And it takes a lot of maintenance. It was a lot for me to like accept and take it on, because I'm like, this is like day in, day out. This is endless. Like I constantly have to take care of it. And he used to joke with me because I'm really into the Enneagram. I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but I'm a 4-wing 5. If you guys know anything about that, my 5 wing is very strong, which 5s, it's like a personality typing system. 5s struggle sometimes with treating their body as a vehicle. And I had that mindset. And he always tells me, your body is not a vehicle. Like you have to take care of your body. And like, that was something I really had to, it was hard for me to accept. I know that it sounds crazy to me now, but that's within somewhat recent memory, like probably like 2020, 2021. Even 2022, probably. You know, it's like, it was tough for me to accept, but that is self-love. That is love. You know, it's like, love is like when you have a baby and you have to get up in the middle of the night and change their diaper and feed them over and over again. You know, I have a family member that just had a baby, and it's like, that's love. It doesn't always, it's not glamorous all the time, you know? Love is taking care of yourself. It's taking care of your body, even if you don't feel like it. That's love.
Toxic behaviors,
Yeah.
or potentially like promoting for other people to also be bigger. I think people start to think that it's like, hey, you should be big too, and you like put the food in your mouth, and it's kind of like, it's kind of
Oh, some of them do say that, let's be real, but that's not typically the mainstream view. The mainstream view that they're trying to push is, I'm big and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm big and it's genetic. I'm big and it's has to do with race. That's what they're pushing, which people have every right to push back against these lies. They're lies. And everybody has a right to push back against that.
Food in your mouth. They should start doing that. Get bigger.
it's kind of like it's the same kind of people that are like, if you talk about queer stuff, you're gonna turn our kids queer.
turning them all.
Turning
the fucking frogs gay.
It's not similar whatsoever. And actually, cultural conversations around diet and weight actually greatly do affect. There are many studies that show that the culture you have around food can definitely influence your weight. So you guys are stupid, because it's not similar at all to being gay. It doesn't matter. The amount of times in my life I've been the only gay person in the room is innumerable. It doesn't matter. It's not the same. But cultural conversations around food, they're huge in terms of weight outcomes. It's huge. Huge. It matters greatly, which is why I'm here, because I want to change the culture. I want to help change the culture. I want to encourage you all to change the culture. It matters. It's not similar to being gay at all.
I know. Well, that's the thing, and like that, you know, leads us to
I don't know if that was demure, but I'm working on it.
the whole big conversation about health and like fatness and size, and how like most of the fat phobics that I've encountered.
Fat phobics. Oh my gosh. Wow. The fat phobics. Oh, okay, I'm going to use that one. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh. Whew. Okay. I think I'm going to end this around 45 minutes. Okay, so we're going to go a little longer, but I'm getting to the limit here, okay?
Really hold on to the fact that like you might want to accept yourself aesthetically, sure, but like you are promoting unhealthy lifestyles and you
Yeah,
are
I think what we should say is you're lying about it. You're lying about it. You're lying about it. You're lying to yourself and others about this. That might be an interesting talking point idea, but I need to think about this, and I'd love your guys' ideas too. What should we say besides you're promoting obesity? Because I don't think that that's as effective. So let's think of something else we could say.
supporting basically death, like going to your death. And that is not true. It's not true at all. Like, you can't tell somebody's health by their size. And in fact, we talked about this earlier, but the more that you
I'm going to stay demure. I'm going to do it. It's killing me. It's fine. I can handle anything. I'm good. I'm mindful. I'm demure.
fight your body, the more diets that you go on, we're talking like dieting, you know, crash dieting, like
Yeah, not like lifestyle.
Yeah.
Diet, like very temporary, hardcore.
trying
Okay.
to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay. She was like trying to steelman her, and then she's like, no, trying to lose weight at all. She was trying.
You know, like if you're doing that, if you're trying to focus on intentional weight loss as your main goal, the chances are it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it might even.
Okay. We're going to stop here. I'm going to have to stop because I'm going to have to do probably a whole diatribe. So we're going to go back a bit for the next episode. I'm going to mark this. But thank you guys so much for the first edition of this. I cannot handle this anymore. I'm not going to be able to maintain my demureness if I continue. And I want to actually go through each of those points very carefully. So we will revisit this. I'm ready. So I will be back to this when I'm ready to do it again. I mean, I'm saying I'm ready to do this whole thing, but I need a break now. So I will be back. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's do this thing. Peace.